Basilosaurus, guys. Today we are going to go over the mystery on what this animal is, what paleontologists did to solve that mystery, and I'm going to teach you just a teeny bit of the science today, guys. My name is Jason with Megacrocs, the author of the book Megacrocs, that explores the paleobiology, zoology, and everything else about the giant crocs of the past and present. So what is Basilosaurus? Well, guys, this was a mystery, and today I'm going to help you show kind of how people solved that mystery. And even the name Basilosaurus really kind of refers to people thinking of it as a reptile or lizard. The first thing we're going to look at is those teeth. Notice how they have those front graspy kind of teeth and those back shearing teeth. I'm going to go show you another mosasaur. This right here is one of my favorites. It's Tylosaurus. Tylosaurus is one of the biggest mosasaurs ever discovered, and you can see the similarities between the Basilosaurus back there and the mosasaurs like this Tylosaurus. Long streamlined head for the Basilosaurus. Razor sharp teeth, just like the Basilosaurus too, but there's a couple differences, and it was the teeth that actually helped solve this problem. So right here, the Tylosaurus, you can see, you know, this particular specimen, I think this mount, I think they have it at almost like 42-ish feet. And so Basilosaurus, maybe a hair longer than that. They had definitely had different shaped vertebrae. So we're gonna go over how they changed this. So guys, look inside the mouth. As you look at the teeth of Tylosaurus, you'll notice that they're all the basic same shape. We call this homodonty. Homo means same, donty means tooth, and they're all the same basic shape. Many mammals, not all, but almost every mammal, has what we call heterodonty condition, where you have different shaped teeth to do different jobs. So you have the long front grasping teeth and the shearing teeth, grasping teeth and grinding teeth, rooting teeth and grinding teeth. So notice how all these mammals have different shaped teeth. Again, shearing teeth and pointy teeth. So with Basilosaurus, you get your grasping teeth and your shearing teeth. So that was your first clue. So again, look at the mosasaur. Homodont teeth, right? All the same basic shape. Okay, way number two to identify if you're dealing with a mosasaur versus Basilosaurus is the palatized teeth. So they have these throat teeth right here in the back of their throat. Normal teeth, and these palatized teeth. I don't know if you can see those. Again, even the Tylosaurus has the palatized teeth right there in the back of its throat. Hard to see. Animals like Tyrannosaurus rex will not have palatized teeth because even though they're reptiles like Mosasaurus, they are a member of a group we call Archosauria. And as a member of Archosauria, they're more akin to birds and crocs, whereas dinosaurs kind of hold themselves really far apart from the others. Whereas mosasaurs are akin to a group we call, well, actually, they're akin to snakes and lizards. And they are members of a group we call Lepidosauria. And so they are true lizards. This is a true squamate as a member of Lepidosauria. It's like snakes and lizards are also squamates. And this is just not a squamate, but mosasaurs like Tylosaurus, Mosasaurus, and many others are actually true lizards. And they're actually kind of considered by some, it's still being researched and debated, to actually be kind of in a group we call Veranoidea, which would include snakes and monitor lizards. Okay, so we discussed the homodonty versus the heterodonty. We reviewed the palatized teeth that Basilosaurus doesn't have. Now we're gonna go over the third main difference between the Basilosaurus and the Mosasaurus teeth. This right here is a mosasaur jaw. We have a tooth right here, and they have one root that goes into each tooth. We have one tooth to one root. In Basilosaurus, you get the tooth, but you get two roots. This right here is a cast to one of the cheek or shearing teeth of Basilosaurus. And notice how it has two roots right here. There is a group of animals today that have teeth very similar to this. The ungulates. Now, ungulates include horses, elephants, hippos, pigs, and many, many others. But Basilosaurus is also a member of Ungulata. Now, ungulates are split into two groups. So with Ungulata, you get your odd-toed ungulates, like this rhino, and your even-toed ungulates, like this camel, and pigs and hippos. All right, so back to our teeth. This right here actually belongs to another even-toed ungulate. These are actually deer teeth. And notice how they have the two roots and two roots right here. All right, so with just those three main differences, we now know that Basilosaurus is actually a member of the whales. And so this is a very primitive whale. And in fact, this is so primitive that this actually evolved before the main split of whales. Today, all dolphins and whales can be put into a group called Cetacea. And Cetacea is actually under your even-toed ungulates, which is ironic because notice how all the toothed cetaceans today, kind of like sperm whales, dolphins, orcas, they're actually back to a homodonty condition, but it was actually a heterodonty condition that helped us identify some of the most primitive whales. That right there is called irony. But anyway, Cetacea is split into two main groups. You get your toothed whales and your baleen whales. However, Basilosaurus actually evolved prior to the split between baleen and toothed whales. So this is kind of like the great-great-great-great-grandpa. Another really cool primitive trait of Basilosaurus is its nares are actually kind of only up the snout, and it does not even go halfway up the skull yet. And as whales evolved, that sagittal crest is actually gonna grow huge, and that nose is gonna migrate back, and that's gonna form the melon. So we actually know Basilosaurus did not have the melon, which means it probably did not produce sonar. Take this dolphin, for example, right here. You have that enlarged sagittal crest. You get the nares in the back of the head, and the melon's gonna come through here, and this is what's gonna help them produce that sonar. All right, my friends, if you guessed Basilosaurus, that means you have to hit like, and then you have to subscribe, and then I want you to share this video to your friends to see if they can guess that that thing is a whale and not a mosasaur. Really fast, there's actually many other differences, including the shape of the vertebra. For example, when we're dealing with whales, we know their spine goes up and down like this. When we're dealing with squamates, their spine goes side to side like this. So mosasaurs use their tail fluke to swim side to side, whereas Basilosaurus was going to use its tail fluke to go up and down. The vertebrae of Basilosaurus are actually kind of uncomfortably long, very, very long, kind of stretched out vertebrae. Mosasaurs not so much, but there's one more thing I want to show you. Aquatic animals spent millions of years perfecting the art of reducing drag and increasing locomotion through water. Some use powerful fins, like this massive turtle called Archlon. Some use paddle-like tails, like the Tylosaurus. This Elasmosaurus right here predominantly used its paddle-like flippers right here to locomote itself forward. Animals like ammonites and other cephalopods actually use a siphon to actually push water out, going. But back to the mosasaurs. They have large paddle-like flippers right here where their hands would be, but they also have a very well-developed pelvis and well-developed pelvic essentially feet, right? Pelvic fins, flippers, right? If this was Basilosaurus, which sadly they don't actually have the pelvis to Basilosaurus here, anyone who really wants to knock on transition species really doesn't really know that much, because Basilosaurus is actually on the way out of losing its hind fins and flippers. So that pelvis in Basilosaurus would be greatly reduced. And as it gets reduced in Basilosaurus, its entire back flipper would be about the size of just the hand bones, not including the phalanges. Oh, you can't see it, huh? I'll show you on this guy. So that's the femur right here, okay? And then you get your tibia and your fibia. Well, that entire area on the Tylosaurus would be the size of the entire flipper of the Basilosaurus. So essentially, mosasaurs like Tylosaurus had a much more significant presence, meaning they probably locomoted themselves, propelled themselves forward in the water using that long tail, just like monitor lizards and crocodiles and snakes do today, even though monitors and crocs are not that close. It's still a good example, okay? And they probably use these back flippers, these hind legs, and their forward-facing flippers and their arms to essentially steer and kind of manipulate the water, kind of like a fighter jet does. Whereas this amazing animal right here predominantly just used its fluke and would articulate its vertebrae and its kind of pectoral fins or flippers to steer where it went. Guys, if you liked this little deep dive-ish, not super deep. Oh, by the way, those are its eyes right here. Bloop. But if you enjoyed this deep dive into Basilosaurus, like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.